Well, guess what?
Something juicy? Oh no, now what?
How to build an assembly.
What do you know?
It's going in the mail to you tomorrow.
Uh-oh, now I am in trouble. First
Oh.
time, the first time we got a draft of that, I turned to Shannon and I said, "Oh, more work." To which he said, "Oh, yes, more work."
Well, it turns out I'm still missing 3 chapters. Um, but everything else has been updated, incorporated. All of your charts are, I hope you like them.
Well, the nice thing about it is I can just read it and scroll in the margins, and return it, and that way we get somewhere.
Yep.
I don't have a lot of capability here for graphic art designs and things like charts or cartoons or illustrations. I have to rely on others to produce that sort of stuff. So it's really wonderful to be able to just write, make a word correction or spelling or whatever it is and send it back.
Yep. Yeah. So I hope you like them. I hope that they are accurately what you wanted represented and or presented and all of that stuff. So looking for your feedback and hopefully we've got it mostly nailed.
I'm beginning to feel like a whole bunch of those kinds of projects are all coming together and are finally getting consolidated all at once, sort of a if it rains, it pours phenomenon. But I'm really grateful and glad that it is getting done. And, the same with our banks. It's been, boy, oh, so many decisions had to be made on the way here. And I'm glad that that whole process has, done its cycling and we've all been able to get through the contracts and the different agreements and understandings and blah 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 blah. And I'm glad that we've made our decision about the kind of trading platform that we need and want and will use, and that is a completely decentralized trading platform. Because a fundamental flaw in the system for the last 200 years at least has been the central banking system, which has contributed so substantially to the criminality of our world as it has developed to this point. It becomes very clear that nothing that we look at in terms of the criminality that's been promoted against us and against our country and against so many other national governments, none of that could have been accomplished without the collaboration and collusion of the central bank system.
And control.
Right. Basically, if they hadn't gone along with it, none of this could have happened.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to get as far away as possible from, what has gone on, and we need to flip it on its head and make sure that it never gets a foothold again.
Right. Well, I've shocked numerous people by telling them flat out the end game is the end of money. The end game is for everybody to realize that money is a fraud and that we have been enslaved by a fraud. I mean, something that is directly and observably an ancient superstition, a form of idolatry
Total
that we
idolatry, total idolatry.
that we don't need. There are other ways that we can uh, take the place of money, which are sane and practical and factual, and that will expedite our ability to trade, but will not result in this kind of enslavement and manipulation. So um, now we're down to the point now where it's just head to head with different factions and different trading platforms that are just bumping heads like this. You've got BRICS, you've got the QFS, you've got the decentralized trading exchange because people who are sick of both BRICS and sick of SWIFT need a third option. And so the third option is the best because it is decentralized, because it is honest, and because it is apart from the existing system, whether you come at it from east or west. I mean, one of the great lessons of all of this is that you're dealing always with the two sides of the coin. And, whether it's the brick system or whether it's the uh, remodeled, updated, and even more horrible Swift system, uh, neither one of them are acceptable. They're both different flavors of feces, just like the political system. Doesn't matter whether you are electing a Democrat or a Republican, you get the same end result. Well, same thing with the banking system. They had it set up so that you had two choices, and you either chose one flavor of uck or you had to choose the other flavor of uck. And so we built our own third option, which is not ucky at all. And so, at this point, our employees are promoting their QFS system, which is just a more technologically advanced but more invasive, oppressive, surveillance-oriented, controlling thing than even the old Swift system. I mean, this is like J.D. Rockefeller on steroids, on speed. I mean, they want to know everything that you think, everything that you buy, everything that you do, and they want to judge you for it. They want to control you, and they want to know everything, down to how many hairs circle your butt. These people are absolutely control freaks, and they want to use the banking system to further enslave people. And at the same time, they're tooting this QFS system as if this were the best thing since hot sliced bread and the mechanism of freedom. It's not freedom. It's something that was created by and pawned off on the government personnel in a collaboration with Red China. And it's a social merit system, just like they have in Red China. And actually, the CIA code name for the QFS was Crimson Gate. Hello, just open up that Crimson Gate, right? We want a monetary system based on the monetary system of communist China, like we need a hole in the head, Mr. Trump. And that goes double for everybody else who's been involved in it. That goes double for the CIA, it goes double for the NSA, it goes double for DHS, it goes double for DARPA. Hear us roar. This is not something that we want. It's not something we accept. It's not something that rank and file Americans have to put up with. And indeed, we've completely set up our own financial architecture. And we highly recommend that our employees get on board and use the same architecture so that they can be properly protected and allowed a certain degree of security and freedom that they will never get from the QFS.
Yeah, it's crazy how easily they just buy into the crap, the BS, and they're like, "Oh, the QFS is so wonderful." It's like, "What?"
Well, let's see. Um, if you've never seen a high-heeled shoe before, and there's only one brand on the market, and it happens to be black patent leather, guess what? Everybody's going to be going, oh, 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 how wonderful, until a white patent leather model shows up, or a red patent leather model. Suddenly it'll be, oh, oh, and it's all this. Sometimes I think we're squirrels or dogs, and it's whatever shiny object is held up becomes a focus, and I can't explain why we are still stuck in that kind of mode of operation, but so many people are. It really, truly, it's like me sitting there with my dog and saying, river or bird or, walk. And my dog gets all excited, right? Well, it's sort of like that with these things, which, people really don't know enough about to be savvy consumers. You know, somebody comes by and says, oh, yeah, the QFS is going to be really great. And it's going to have all these features. And then people read the features and they should get to about number 4 and stop and go, hey, wait a minute. That allows the QFS to completely control trade and commerce both. That allows the QFS to determine if I'm worthy of participating in the economy of the entire world. Oh, that allows the QFS to identify me as buying a package of this particular brand of gum.
Yeah, exactly. It's the oddest thing, but then, you've also got all the expert talking heads on all the channels out there that are saying how wonderful, the QFS is going to be and silly stuff like that. And so people just they don't think for themselves. They just want to believe what they want to believe.
Well, like I say, they're not savvy consumers, and there's only one brand being offered. So you've got a monopoly interest presenting its product and just keeping it up, yap, 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 all day, every day. And then they are also offering these clumps of money. And when they do this, what they're doing, and I think people really need to understand how commerce works. Okay, they offer you what appears to be, you know, $100,000 freebie. Okay, but these people don't tell you, they don't disclose what they're doing or what they're really offering. What they're doing is they're offering you a settlement of their debt to you for $100,000 in Federal Reserve notes, no less. And their debt to you may be 30 billion. So, they're not telling you the whole story, and they're not even telling you that this is a debt settlement offer, but they're, offering these checks or these money of deposit accounts, and people are falling for it left and right. These are not nice people. These are pirates. These are legalistic charlatans that have pulled all sorts of crap like this on you already, which we've exposed. And, no, don't take any offers from them whatsoever because they're not being honest. They haven't been honest from 1863 until today. So, this is just more of the same old crap. And, what if you're aware of the fact that they owe you 30 billion, would you settle for 100,000?
Nope.
And would you settle for it in Federal Reserve notes, knowing what
No.
you know about Federal Reserve notes?
Heck
No,
no.
no, nobody would.
Uh-uh.
And, that's part of what actually belies their entire system is that nobody in their right mind, given granted full disclosure, um, would ever take the deal.
Yeah, it's still poop, whether it's pink or purple or
Yeah,
yellow.
yeah, whether it's one side of the coin or the other side of the coin, it's still the coin. And you're still getting ripped off. And it's still idolatry, and it's still nothing but a child's game that's gone horribly, horribly wrong. Uh, you know, just like the Democrats versus the Republicans, you're getting the same side, you're getting one side of the coin. Either take your choice. You get bad or bad. Take your choice. Bad or bad. Take your choice. Worse or worse. You can have this kind of raspberry flavored caca. You can have this. You can have spearmint flavored caca. It's still going to be caca, okay? And so, grandma here says, what a bunch of crap. What a bunch of absolute nonsense. And yet they routinely think that we're dumb enough to fall for this, and that by establishing a monopoly interest, they can force it down our throats. Well, we have some motivation, we have some intelligence, we have the motivation, certainly, to do our own system. And so that's what we've done. And, we can issue our own money. So we have. And we can live our own lives without their system and without being associated with them as employees or dependents or anything of the sort. So that's what we've also done. We've put the lie to all of their suppositions and their presumptions and their impositions and all the rest of the credola that they have been trying to, foist off on people. You know, my mother was a great one to use the word foist. And it's this idea of passing the bill, you know, somehow or another wrangling things around so that the innocent person gets stuck with the bill. You know, they foisted it off on Joe. Joe got to pay the bill even though it wasn't Joe's bill. And this is the kind of thing that these rats have been doing for over 100 years. They've been getting us to pay their bills for them. And they've been using fraud of various kinds to secure that outcome. So, why wouldn't they have a completely unfair, completely fraudulent, completely controlling pipeline type system that they pawn off and they foist on people as being something wonderful? I'm sure that when the SWIFT system was new, they pawned that off on people too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they do it with great fanfare and, you know, clowns and circuses and all sorts of shenanigans to convince people that they're getting something for really nothing.
Well, mark my words, as they roll out this QFS system, there'll be an NDA associated with it. And part of that non-disclosure agreement will be an agreement locking you in to use the QF system exclusively, which is an obstruction of trade and an obstruction of commerce and totally illegal. But because you signed this non-disclosure agreement, you won't be able to warn your friends or neighbors about it. You won't be able to do anything but be ultimately and all entirely dependent on them and their little restrictive pipeline operation, their monopoly on money and credit.
Well,
And so,
anybody who's been in that Nisara Gasara uh, shenanigan, they've already got non-disclosures in place.
well, folks, you're being taken for a ride. Again, don't fall for it. I have told people I was there. I was young, but I was there when Gasara Nasara got its start as an idea. My mother worked with Roy Schlesinger. She was, one of the people that, licked the stamps and sent the letters, right? She was one of those who organized the National Farm Union effort and the NFO and all that stuff back in the day. And so we were right there observing it, ground central, boom, and went all the way through the 1980 Supreme Court cases, all of it. And to this day, you can go onto the government tracking websites, you can look up the status of legislation, and you'll see that Nasara hasn't been touched in decades. There's been no action on it at all. So, whatever they're calling Nisara or Gasara is not the Nisara that we are thinking of in our heads. It's something else that they've just, come up with a different acronym and dumped on it and are trading on the idea of the justice and fairness that the original Nisara was designed to provide. So just remember, the original Nisara got laughed out of the Beltway. Nobody in Washington, D.C. would even think about it or consider it, just like they're not thinking about or considering any serious relief for the people in North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee. They don't give a good goddamn. They think that they are in a position of power and they're just going to do whatever they want and they're going to spend our money however they please and they're going to gain more and more coercive control over us and our resources until we are totally enslaved. That's what they think, and that's what they're gunning for with the QFS, which after all has been sponsored by Red China. Think about the name of the CIA operation that developed the QFS. Crimson Gate, as in gateway to communism. Hello. Hello, America. And all those NDAs, those of you who are reading these NDAs, pay attention to what they actually say, what you're actually giving up, and what you have to keep your mouth shut about, and why. Because by the time you read it, they're going to have you in a situation where you don't have any choice but to sign it. And once you sign it, they're going to be breathing down your neck, trying to force you to honor this contract under duress. Okay, this is a monopoly interest. This is a commercial monopoly on banking. And they're trying to make it stick by making you stick and making you obligated to use their system, making you contractually obligated to stay with their system, and making you contractually obligated to put up with whatever disciplinary action they decide to apply against you for, buying the wrong kind of toothpaste.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And it's just unfortunate because people, they're still just so under the black magic money spell. And many times they're desperate and they think it's their only option, the only way that I'm gonna get something. And many people don't even know what they're gonna get. And they're still willing to sign an NDA, not even knowing what the actual outcome will be.
Yeah. Well, if they've got you out in the middle of the boonies and you're all there by yourself and the choice is either sign or die, what are you going to do?
Walk away, run away.
Well, by then it's not possible. It's the same old strong arm, satanic sign or die kind of crap that pirates always pull. Your money or your life. Okay, well, they give people these kinds of options in order to create their monopoly, and then they use NDAs and other forms of legalistic bullshit to promote and sustain their monopoly.
Well, that's why we got to break the cycle because it's just, we can't continue this way.
No, we can't. And that is exactly what informs me each and every day, that the world that they're proposing would not be worth living in. We might as well die right now. We might as well, because the enslavement and the level of picky and arbitrary micromanagement that these bureaucrats would impose would make it impossible to live a satisfying life on this planet.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because they just want full control.
So, enough of them. We don't want that, and we've said so, and we've made it perfectly clear. We've told our employees where to go, how high to jump, and it's up to them to do so. As far as we're concerned, our system is our system. We're backing it. We're making it work. We're working with other people who are actual, factual, living people who have real families and real lives and real needs to be able to trade. But that's it. We don't really want anything super fantabulous. Okay. We're not trying to track what brand of toothpaste you use. We're not trying to identify you as a biological object. We're not objectifying anybody, okay? We find it to be absolutely repulsive that these bureaucrats and bean counters have objectified living beings and have, taken the attitude that we're just objects. We're just things like chess pieces to be moved around and played with and analyzed. That is not what we are, and that's not their role. And so, putting them in their place and making it an absolute clarification of what a public employee's role is and is not is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they've, taken it as far away from reality as can be imagined. I mean, they're way off in la la land.
Right. They're public employees getting their pay from our purse, and they want to control us. Hello? It's time that we, as employers, stood up and told them exactly where to go. And it's time for us, as inheritors, to stand up and tell the quote unquote US trustees, hey, we're the presumed donors as well as the presumed beneficiaries. Fork over. I mean, it's just that simple. And they have been trying every means in the book to evade their obligations and to evade the constitutional limitations and guarantees and to mistake us for anybody or anything but what we are, just plain old Americans who are owed all these contractual agreements that are there right in front of them. Now, Mr. Trump is promising constitutional government, a return to common law. Mr. Trump doesn't even know which constitution would apply. Mr. Trump doesn't know what the federal republic ever was, or who owned it, or how it was constructed. He knows nothing of this. He is relying upon British barristers, attorneys, who have nothing whatsoever to do with this and have never been educated in it. Okay? It's like turning to one of the native tribes in the western United States and asking them for their advice about baking French bread. We don't bake French bread. What are you asking us for, right? And so, it's the same sort of thing that's going on with Trump's administration. You know, they're roaming around. They know that something's wrong. And when they find out the truth, 9 times out of 10, they back away from it because it's politically incorrect or it's going to reflect badly on them. Or, maybe, God forbid, it's going to make the military look bad. Well, I'm sorry, the military deserves to look bad. The military's been part of this problem since 1863. That's it. That's the truth, folks. There's no way around it. If the military had done what the military should have done, we wouldn't be in this situation.
Right. But instead they lied and lied and lied and lied, and they're still lying.
And cheated and stole and filched and plundered and pillaged and illegally confiscated. So, no, the military doesn't get a free pass here. The military may get amnesty if they do the right thing, but otherwise, no, they don't get any high marks for loyalty or due diligence or doing their duty.
No, the top brass doesn't even know who they are. They have no clue.
Well, Smedley Butler knew the score. Why do we assume that others don't?
He sure did, and he called it out.
They know it's a racket too. So where the hell are they? Why aren't they doing their work? Oh, because in 1937, there was a contract called the Declaration of Interdependence of the Governments in the United States. However, that contract was created under conditions of complete fraud and misunderstanding. There was no full disclosure. That contract is invalid. The municipal United States was never the United States, and it certainly wasn't the civilian government that the military owes its allegiance to. So the military really needs to get the lead out and get their head out of their butt. And they need to act in an honorable and straightforward fashion from now on, because the the facts are there. And there's really no excuse for trying to ignore or evade them any further. We know what happened. We have the proof. We have the knowledge. And all of that is as clear as the nose on my perky little face. So, it's a monopolistic endeavor that's run its course.
It's even past running its course. I mean, it should have been dealt with a long time ago. And so it's just now a musty old thing that just needs to be taken out.
Right. I mean, it's been almost 10 years since we went through the entire process of the final civil judgment.
Yes, it has been 10 years. It's now we're a couple months into it.
Well, it'll be April of 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but all of this stuff, even cured, it's done. It's over. They are convicted. Their crimes have been known. They've been addressed. They've been adjudicated properly. They've been given due process. Everything has been done. And what it comes down to is this: our government has been run by criminals. It's not a political issue. It's an issue of crime.
Right. Yeah. On so many levels. And in many ways, it's not even our government. It's subcontractors pretending.
Right. Subcontractors acting under color of law, impersonating the actual government, their employer. Well, here we are, a little ragged and tattered and worse for the wear, but we're still here. And that is so inconvenient for so many parties, not just in this country, but for other countries too, because these corporations have been passing themselves off as if their citizenry could compose a nation. I'm sorry, a nation is people. It's living people. We are a nation, okay? The people of substance, right? Persons, which are offices, are these mask-like capacities like Mr. Mayor, those are persons. Persons don't result in nations. They can't become a nation by being a citizenry. It's not even possible. Right now, we're having the whole discussion about the United Nations. Well, it's not United Nations because the quote unquote nations are fraudulently constructed. The quote unquote nations are citizenries, which are persons, not people. So they're not nations, they're citizenries. So what the truth is, it's the United Citizenries. It's not the United Nations, which in itself is a large enough fraud to merit the dissolution of the entire organization. But there are other issues too, as we brought out this past week. Look at the over a dozen different absolute demands and actions that the United Nations has taken against Israeli aggression in the Mideast. And all of it has been ignored. All of it's been doubled down on. Israel just goes on acting like the infant terrible. They get to do all this nasty, aggressive, ugly stuff and get away with it against their neighbors. And the UN just stands there and pats them on the head. They were ready to pat them on the head again this week after all of the savagery in Gaza, after the surreptitious invasion of Syria, and after all of the damage done in Lebanon. The Security Council of that version of United Citizenries, corporate entities, okay, was about to hand them all sorts of accolades and money and support. And the only thing that stood against it, the only country that had any conscience or any guts was tiny little Algeria, which just by the luck of fate in heaven was one of the oddball members of the group that got thrown in as a member of the Security Council on a roll of the lot. The dice said Algeria, and so Algeria got a seat on the Security Council in this round. And that's the only thing that stopped the UN Security Council from going to Israel's aid. There's something extremely smelly and something extremely wrong when a country can invoke genocide on their neighbors and completely ignore world opinion for 100 years, well, going on 100 years, and get away with it with impunity and somehow make it seem like they're right. They're not right. There's no excuse for what Israel is doing. There's no excuse for what it's done in the past. It's just an ugly little bully that makes that continually eats up territory that isn't its, that doesn't belong to it, and that never belonged to it. And then they lie and they come out with all this stuff about anti-Semitism. Well, they're not Semites. They pretend to be Semites. You can go and you can take DNA samples of 90% of the people in Israel, and they are not Semites. The people that they're killing are Semites. So there they are pretending to be Semites, yelling about anti-Semitism while they kill the only Semites in the room.
It's just so crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
They don't know who they are or they're lying. It's one of two things. I mean, don't the Israelis know that all their leaders, practically all their leaders, I should say, because there are a few exceptions, but practically all of their leaders were born with names that are very, very, very clearly not Jewish. I mean, they were born with Russian names. They were born with Polish names. They were born with Lithuanian names. They were born with Armenian names, and they changed their names to make them sound more Jewish. But they're not Jewish, and they're not Semitic. Okay? We're dealing with a group of people that are pretending to be something they're not. And they're doing this very self-interestedly because if they are Semites, if they were Semites, they would have more of a claim to land in the Mideast. Because the actual Semites, the Arabs, they come from the Mideast. These people come from Poland, Croatia, Estonia, Armenia. anywhere and everywhere but the Mideast.
You just can't make this stuff up, Anna.
No, you can't. And yet they've invested probably billions of dollars in these organizations and campaigns, and they have, cry-eyed and ki-eyed every second of the day about, oh, it's all anti-Semitism. Oh, well, they're not even Semites, so what are they bitching about? It's enough to make me want to slap them. Just, come on, let's get serious. Little, tone down the hysteria here and get real. Anyway, and yet we put up with this kind of discussion, and there's all this going on in the world right now. And every day you see more of the inroads that have been made by these political action groups, these special interest groups. And whether their song and dance has been about, gay baby smokers and blue whales, or whatever their thing has been. It's all noxious. It's all selfish. It's all twisted. And it's been allowed to corrupt our entire world. Our institutions are corrupt. Everything from our churches to what passes for our government to what, all the monopolies of all the basic industries, the licensing of occupation of common right. This whole thing, it stinks to high, high heaven.
It
And
sure
so
does.
I we have to step back from it and start looking at this stuff and start digging into it and realizing, gee, isn't that interesting? They're not even Semitic. They're
Right,
actually killing all the people who are Semitic.
right. Well, and I was also going to mention that a lot of those NGOs are safe, sorry about that, they're safe harbored by religious organizations.
Right. And what do we hear? All these NGOs are trafficking children. Now, let us all stand here with our mouths hanging open in shock to learn that children have had phone numbers in this country, phone numbers from this country written on them in ink and then been passed over the border to these non-governmental organizations. And then these non-governmental organizations get custody of this child. Oh, and then they see this number basically tattooed on the child, and they call the number, and whoever shows up, they give the child to.
It's so crazy. It's beyond.
It is beyond crazy. And it makes no sense until you realize that the government is making money hand over fist doing this. They're using those people and they're selling those children for horrible, horrible, horrible purposes. And we're standing here looking like dumb, allowing this to happen, allowing these NGOs to operate this way. And they want to tell us that we should pay them for child protective services. They're not protecting anything but their own income. They're not protecting anything but their own self-interest. And let me say their ugly self-interest. These people need to be shut down. And I mean shut down hard. They need to go to jail. And not a nice, comfy jail either.
Yeah, it's absolutely. 100%. We've just got to put an end to this absolute insanity. It's just off the charts insanity.
And lack of accountability.
Oh,
Therein lies the rub. Nobody's accountable for nothing, baby.
and everybody's making money, money, money. That's the other problem.
Right. Well, if you don't want war, you have to stop paying for it, bucko. You know, it's that simple. If you won't pay for it, they won't promote it because they won't get any money out of it. You see, the love of money really is the root of all evil, and the belief in money is the root of money.
Yeah, and the source of confusion because you're believing in something that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's made up. It's an idol. You're worshiping an idol.
Especially when you're dealing with credit and fiat currencies, because they really literally are not only are they not corn, they're plastic corn. Okay. They're, you know, they're a facsimile of something. Okay. They are really truly an idol. It's like the difference between a cat and a photograph of a cat. If you can't perceive that difference, then you're in a world of hurt and you're also in a world of delusion.
Yeah, that's the problem. Everything is illusion and delusion, and it's all just actors on the stage.
Right. It is. It is theater, literally. Shakespeare wasn't just kidding when he said all the world, meaning the world of men, all the world is a stage.
Exactly. Yeah. Ugh.
Well, rather demoralizing to contemplate all this stuff. But as long as we're aware of it, we've made progress because you cannot fix a problem that you can't perceive.
That's a good point. Thank you for that reminder.
So now we know what the problem is, and we've done the entire examination, gone 360 degrees around it, examined the whole thing up one side and down the other. And what do we find? That we need new institutions, new authorities, new ways of dealing with different needs that people have, and different ways of dealing with issues that confront the entire planet, such as pollution. Now, there's a cause that the military could be gainfully employed at for the next 300 years. They wouldn't have to fight any actual wars against people. They could just fight wars against the pollution that they've already caused.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is they're the number one or enemy number one for all the chemtrails and everything that has caused all the pollution, which, the North Carolina report showed incredible amounts of chemtrails in the lab results that came back.
Right. And all of those things are poisonous incendiaries. Barium, strontium, lithium salts, aluminum salts. All these things are the components of incendiary bombs. So what happens when they get hit with DEW weapons? Oh, flashbang. You have incendiary bomb effects from a normal landscape that's been impregnated with all these salts and heavy metals, all the incendiary minerals and salts of minerals and metallic oxides. So there's a method to this madness. They're getting to a point where they can do Maui or Paradise, California, or Santa Rosa anywhere they want because they've laid in a supply of the incendiary metals on the land itself. And
Yeah, it's terrible.
they think we're stupid. The one thing that really comes across in all of this is that these people think that the entire rest of the world is stupid, dumb as a box of rocks, incapable of seeing or understanding what they've done and what they're doing. They all think that we are completely convinced that they're good guys. They think that we are supporting them and that we don't see what they're doing. Hello. So who's the dumb one now? I'm sorry, but the emperor has no clothes and he's got a tiny little dick. So, it's time for the rest of us to stand up and deal with the situation, or I should say situations. All of their deceits, all of their shuffling of the shells and all the different little shell games and all the verbal things like changing the meaning of vaccine, all this crap is what it is. There's no excuse, there's no explanation for it. It's just criminality, it's just lies, it's just deceit, you know. And it's stuff that once you step back from it is obvious. So now here's Pope Francis standing there in his white cassock with, the pockets of his gown turned inside out. Oh, the Vatican is going to declare bankruptcy. Oh, they don't have any money. Well, 2 years ago, they ordered all of the liquid assets of the church to be brought back to Rome and consolidated in the Vatican Bank. What happened to it? Well, Francis made a little journey over to the Eastern Orthodox branch of the church, and just as in the Dark Ages, the wealth of Rome was transferred to Constantinople. And shortly thereafter, imagine this, after years of sitting on the fence and Erdogan, the Turkish president, refusing to commit Turkish troops to anything, including the Middle East, all of a sudden, we've got a 1 million-man Turkish army sweeping through Syria. Okay? Syria is being obliterated. Syria is being wiped off the map. It's being wiped off the map by Turkish mercenaries that are being paid for with funds from guess who? And Israel, which is doing hardly anything at all, is both taking credit for the obliteration of Syria and, whether Israel knows it or not, the blame for obliterating Syria. But it's all bullshit. It's not true. Israel couldn't do that on their own. With or without Assad, they couldn't do that on their own. And they're not doing it on their own. They have a 1 million-man Turkish army going before them and cleaning up after them. They're just sidebar participants, sort of like Britain was in the Second World War. Ever notice how General Montgomery showed up first and was first to the victory party every single time? Well, that was all contrived. It wasn't that the Brits were at the front of the lines fighting their way through. It was the Americans and the Russians that were doing all the fighting, and then the Brits show up and take credit for it. Same thing with Israel. It's the Turks that are doing all the work, but they'll show up, the Israelis will show up. It's all just nothing but theatrics. It's all nothing but TV. And it's being funded with church money. Francis can't pay his debts because he's very quietly off on another kind of crusade. More killing for Jesus. Another proxy war. And if you're all as sick of it as I am, well then, hey, come on aboard. Let's get the hell out of here and do something different.
Yeah, that's for sure. Very, very different.
Yeah, well, thumbs down on the United Nations. As I observed this week, they got rid of the League of Nations, which were really nations, okay? They were actual governments of actual countries that were trying to do something toward peace on earth. They got rid of the League of Nations by claiming that, well, they weren't efficient. They didn't get the job done. Obviously, we've had 2 world wars, and they just haven't been. There's no reason to continue the League of Nations because they couldn't impose peace on the world. So then they had the United Nations, or shall I say the United Citizenries. They couldn't do anything about peace on earth either. They can't do jack shit about Israel. In fact, they're supporting the little bastard. Okay, so here we are in this country, sucking up all this stupidity and putting up with it and paying for it. Paying for it with our labor and our assets and our resources. I say anybody who took more than $5 from AIPAC needs to be drummed out of the Congress. Do you realize that there's an entire roster of senators that have taken over $500,000 each in campaign funds from Israel? Hello, they're buying and selling us and our resources and our money and everything else to the highest bidder. And we're just sitting here. Well, we aren't. We aren't. We're here. But come on, where's the rest of America? When does this wake up? Wake up! Every day, every week, we are called upon to make contact with at least 10 more people and shove them into gear. We have to. There isn't any moral obligation any greater to our fellow man, to our fellow countrymen, and to ourselves. This information has to be known, and people have to act upon it.
Yes, we need more people to make their declaration.
Well, and realize what's at stake, realize what's going on, not be just dumb-driven cattle. As the prophet Amos said, my people are being destroyed for lack of knowledge. Well, I don't know about you, Terri, but I think we've been promoting the accumulation and the propagation of a lot of knowledge, which is very valuable and timely, that a lot of people need to know.
That's why we're here every Monday.
Right. But we need to get more people here every Monday. And we all need to open up the doors of those assemblies and get more people into the assemblies, even if it's difficult to deal with newcomers who don't know the ropes and don't know the history and don't know even the meanings of words. I mean, sure, is it difficult to deal with a whole bunch of toddlers? Yes, it is. Do they grow up into worthy and valuable human beings? Yes, they do. So, we have got to make the effort to bring more people home. And we have to bring the information forward into as many channels as we can get.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely.
So, I'm kind of placing this before you all with the knowledge that, look, this isn't really my business. My business is out there. My business is fighting in the international realm. Okay. I'm supposed to be, well, doing what I'm doing, giving the UN hell, giving the courts hell, just basically doing everything and anything I can to make sure that this country comes through this. The rest of you are supposed to be busy organizing your states of the union and welcoming as many more Americans as possible home. That's really what the job is. It isn't just to sit on your laurels and go, oh, well, we have a functioning state assembly.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that now that the elections are over, that people will be a little more open and calmer to be receptive to new information because things were so crazy during that whole election cycle. And it was it it was almost impossible to talk to people.
Yeah, it was very strange energy for sure.
Strange energy. People literally were going crazy. They really were. So I know all of us have talked about the fact that we really feel that in after the holidays, because holidays are a distraction for everybody too, but after the holidays that we're probably going to get an influx of people who went through all the craziness. They know something is wrong. They can't put their finger on it, but we're going to be there to explain things very calmly to them. Well, hey, friend, let me tell you what's really going on. You
Yeah.
know?
And don't depend on Mr. Trump to solve all the problems because he doesn't know, guaranteed, does
Right.
not know half of what he would need to know to solve these problems.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't, and I think he's not really interested in learning either because he has a brand and he's promoting his brand.
Right. He's a corporate guy, he's a business guy, he's got a major corporation, and he's basically selling his brand, selling the services of his brand. And I'm sure he's doing his best by the brand, but it is a brand. And we're not a brand, we're a people.
Yeah,
So, you know,
exactly.
Just because Trump got elected to be the president of a international corporation uh, doesn't mean that happy days are here again. It doesn't mean that the salad days have come. All it means is that he's going to spend the next 4 years, you know, if he survives, okay, he's going to spend the next 4 years trying to make up for some of the damage that Biden caused. And then there's going to be another election. Oh, well, he'd be eligible for another election. He could get as much as 8 years. But still, you see the cycle. It's just one thing after another. It's good cop, bad cop. It's, one guy who tears apart the economy, followed by a guy who then plays makeup to rebuild the economy. And it keeps on like this, on and on and on and on.
But they're
This system
on the same team.
this system does not work. That what they've done since the Civil War has been just nothing but a slow attrition, just a constant loss of men, materials, and energy being sucked into this criminal conspiracy, which the military and the bureaucrats have been part of since day one. You know, look at what happened the night that Lincoln was shot. Okay, William Henry Seward, his uh, state Secretary of State, had been home sick. So all of a sudden, at 10 o'clock at night, all the other cabinet members show up at Seward's house before Lincoln had even been shot. What do you think was going on? Well, obviously, the bureaucrats had ganged up on their boss. They knew he was going to be killed. They were there to talk it over. They were having a meeting at Seward's house while Lincoln was being assassinated in the middle of the night. And remember, 10 o'clock in those days was late. It was way after dark. All right, so here these cabinet members are sneaking around in the middle of the same night that Lincoln is being assassinated, and they're having a secret meeting at William Henry Seward's house. Point of reference. What else is weird about this? Well, I'll tell you what's weird about it. That night, General Grant and his wife were supposed to be accompanying Lincoln and Mrs. Lincoln to the theater. But at the last moment, they took a powder. They just had to get on the train and go visit their daughter in Ohio. Right. We believe that too. This was a setup. Lincoln was one kind of putsch, one kind that General Grant was in up to his ears, and all the cabinet officials who met at Henry Seward's house also. So it was a combination of military and bureaucrats that all got together and decreed that, yes, Lincoln would die, and yes, the Republic would be rolled over in favor of a phony government that was actually being orchestrated by military and business entities. Our country was usurped upon a long time ago. So, folks, it doesn't matter how long ago. There is no statute of limitation on fraud. There is no statute of limitation uh, pertaining to violations of breach of trust. There's no statute of limitation on contract violations at the level of treaties. Everything that was ever ours is still ours by the law, the actual law. And all that remains is for us to wake up and to get angry, frankly. I'm not talking about the kind of anger that goes out and throws rocks at buildings. I'm talking about the kind of anger that's deep down and cold, that is just so utterly determined and committed that no matter what else happens, this is going to change.
That's what I was going to say. That requires different choices.
Right. We are not, it's a determined and committed anger. It's a deep in your body. And we're going to make it end. So get ready, because you're going to be hearing all this stuff. And your friends and your neighbors are going to be hearing all this stuff. And everybody's going to be going, oh, Mr. Trump is our savior. And look at all these wonderful things. They're rolling out these different technologies that are going to, boom the economy. They're going to make everybody wealthier than Midas. But pay attention, because there's always strings attached. And there's always a second game going on in the back corner. There's always the flip side to the coin. And in this case, what you're going to see is an attempt by the military to maintain an even more coercive control over your lives and your assets.
No, thanks. I want to make a different choice.
Yes. And thankfully, by our own efforts, we have other choices. So no, you don't have to fall victim to their monopoly. You don't have to pretend that you are a U.S.C citizen. You don't have to accept subjugation as a British territorial citizen in order to continue to have a life and to be an American. You have other options. And so stay tuned and keep your ears up and your Shinola sensors on high.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you haven't exercised your Shinola sensor, you better get on that right away.
Yes, because we're about to be hit with a virtual wall of Shinola.
Yeah,
They're going to pull out all the stops trying to make themselves look like heroes. They're going to pull out every corny gag, every fear, everything that they can to manipulate the public into thinking that they're heroes. And at the same time, they're going to be wheedling around trying to gain unfair advantage and unfair coercive control and unjust enrichment from you. Now, here's just one little scheme that basically tells the whole tale. This whole idea that you should take your Zim bonds and go out to some abandoned military base in the desert and go exchange your Zim bonds at this location. And you should sign a non-disclosure agreement that basically, puts a piece of tape over your mouth. And you should agree that you will turn in your Zim bonds for only 10% of the exchange value. And if they like your plans for a philanthropic project, they might give you back as much as 20%. So they're basically setting themselves up as middlemen and stealing 90 to 80% of your investment value from you. And they're so, you know, gallantly willing to give you back 10%, maybe 20. What kind of horse shit is this? This is where these men are coming from. They're willing to steal from you. They're willing to coerce you. They're willing to endanger you to make money for themselves. And they're the heroes? I'm sorry, no. Those are not the actions of heroes. Those are the actions of self-interested petty crooks. And
yeah,
this is par for the course for them for 100 and some years, 160 some years.
right.
It's just, look at the greenbacks. Look how they swindled everybody out of their gold using greenbacks. Just in case anybody's missing that little piece of history, they set up these US Treasury bonds as investment instruments that paid really good interest over the course of either 10 years or 40 years. That's why they're called 1040 bonds. Did you realize that you are still buying 1040 bonds? What do you think those 1040 forms are for? Hello. Okay, so here come the rubes with their gold clinking in their pockets, and they want to buy these investment instruments, these U.S. Treasury bonds that are supposedly being offered by our government, but not really our government, one of our subcontractors. Okay, so they want to make these investments and get these real fat interest rates off of them, but in order to buy these bonds, they have to buy them with what? Greenbacks. The currency floated by the same perpetrators. Okay, so they take their gold and they exchange them for greenbacks, and then they buy the US Treasury bonds with the greenbacks, and they sit back and they wait there 10 years, and then a few of them show up and say, okay, well, it's been 10 years, I want to cash this bond in. And what do they get back for their bond? Greenbacks. But this was supposed to be a gold bond. This was supposed to be I'm supposed to get gold back with interest. And here's William Tecumseh Sherman, General Sherman, the butcher of Savannah. And what a republic dictator would? He says to them, well, gee, what did you use to buy those US Treasury bonds? Greenbacks. Well, why would you expect to get anything but greenbacks in return? That was his nice pat answer. Fidel Castro couldn't have done a better job. This is the kind of quote unquote government, and this is the kind of military that we've had all these decades. A bunch of Sharpies, a bunch of grifters, a bunch of lowlifes, a bunch of violent criminals that have been in charge of our government because they bamboozled everybody into thinking that they were the government instead. Hello. You see this now, you see how sharp they are, you see how they're twisting and maneuvering and operating these privateering and racketeering and con games at the these guys are not heroes. These are flim-flam artists. These are propagandists. These are masters of deceit. And they're working for foreign governments. So yes, grab your friend. Spread the word. Anyway.
Yes. Spread the word.
Yes. And really, I've run into some people who think, oh, well, we're inheritors, and if there are fewer inheritors, we'll get more.
What?
Oh, no, I'm serious. I've run into people that have that mindset. They think that if they can keep their assemblies just down to, 24 people, that they're going to inherit the wealth of the whole state.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Not true, by the way, not true at all.
No.
But
No.
that there are people out there that are that greedy and that selfish and that small-minded and that ignorant that they actually think that if there's only 8 members in their assembly, they're going to split the entire wealth of their state 8 ways.
Well, the assembly can't be seated with 8 people, I'll tell you that much.
Well, and on top of that, it's contrary to the entire intent and focus and purpose of what we're doing.
Absolutely. You want all the inheritors participating, all of them.
Exactly. And the more the better.
Right.
So, everybody get their heads screwed on, everybody get their motor mouth engaged and start talking up the facts. Share the facts. Look at what's been done here. And look at what's happening in the world. This is our world, and they're ruining it. They're threatening it. They're endangering it. They're harming us. They're harming our children. And they're our employees. Hello. Is there something wrong with this picture?
Very, very, very wrong.
So, anyway, was there anything in particular that I know that I should tell everybody that we got all of our bank contracts signed?
Yay.
And you've probably been getting some communications from the bilateral banks, the Global Family Bank of International Trade and other projects that are associated with that. So hopefully everybody's getting educated more about the, um, the overall uh, program of the banks. And
I still think that the bank should hire Michelle Ford to promote. I'm not kidding. She'd be fantastic.
well,
She's got all the connections. She's she'd be fantastic.
I think that we have a number of people who can very competently present the bilateral banking system and do a very good job of making it simple for people to understand.
Simple is good. Simple is always good.
And, as far as using the controls that they'll have um, access to convert AFD into other currencies, that's really pretty simple too, right? So I think that overall we have a good simple system, and what we are always trying to strive for is a simple system that anybody can use and understand. So I don't think it's going to be that difficult for people to use the system that's been developed for them, because it has been built with that in mind, that it should be something so intuitive and so easy to grasp that anyone can do it, anyone in the world. So I have faith that our people will take to it like ducks to water and be able to just, move their money however they want to into whatever form of either credit or money that they need. I don't think that process is going to take a long time. It may be an ongoing process as you're bringing new people into the system, but I don't think that it's going to take any great amount of education or effort for people to learn how to use their own accounts. And
I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is going to be having people think about things from an opposite point of view. From the doctrine of abundance versus the doctrine of scarcity. We live in a world of abundance, but we've grown up in the doctrine of scarcity. And so it's a completely different mindset. Oh, there's never enough, there's never enough water, there's never enough food, there's never enough, I don't know what. But that's not our truth. And so, you know, um, they're going to need to think about investing in an entirely different way.
right. Well, and we need to educate all those people. You know, it's a daunting task, but it won't be difficult in terms of the concepts. Concepts are simple. Um, and I don't think that we'll have any trouble, even at the level of getting the state assemblies pretty well organized in order to make use of state assembly monies. I think that where the big crunch comes, logically, is making decisions on a global scale. And that is another whole bailiwick. That is the international and global realm where I've been swimming for so long.
I was going to say that's your jurisdiction. We're
Yeah,
just focused on the state borders and the county borders.
right. Well, there are these issues that just stack up all around us. And each one of us has those concerns that have to be addressed. But first and foremost, we need to get our own individual accounts set up so that people are not worried about where their next meal is coming from, so that they're not worried about banking collapses, so that they're not worried about losing the value of their life's savings. I mean, there are terrible things in the offering, but we've taken action to, to avoid those outcomes. And so I think our people are going to be fine. But Lord knows, everybody else that isn't thinking and moving and doing and, you know, seeking out other ways of doing things will be caught in the middle and crunched. One of the things I said in an article just today was, The only thing that is forestalling a complete collapse and roll up and vanishing of the entire world financial system is basically us.
Thank God for the Americans.
Right? Well, but let it be the right Americans that are doing the right things for the right reasons. You know, it's coming down to the vaunted Crimson Gate product known as quantum financial system versus the global bilateral bank system. And which one would you rather support? Would you rather support these warmongering maniacs, or would you rather support something that's homegrown and that is for people, for living people? It's up to you. There will be a crunch, there will be a collapse, and there will be a restructuring, and there will be a monopoly here already entrenched, trying to get your business and trying to lock you into it in every way that they possibly can. But you do have an option, and so does everybody else. As I said, if you don't want war, you have to stop paying for it. You're the employers. So if you take back your own power and you take back your own responsibility and exercise your own rights and have your own money under your own control, then it becomes possible for you to make that decision. And that's the only way that you can put an end to this. So be happy that we have the global family banks and that we have the infrastructure and architecture in place. Be happy that you have an option that is clean and secure and not coercive.
Absolutely, Anna.
Well, sometimes I get the feeling that people don't realize how important the bilateral banking system is.
I don't
This
think,
is
that we've talked about this so many times, but people don't understand banking. They don't understand money. And that's why we have to educate people about the entire thing. Because if you don't understand money and you don't understand banking, and then you hear, oh, well, QFS is just so wonderful, and they're offering free packages of, you know, $1,000. And if they don't understand the preface, they're not going to understand that. They're just go, oh, wow, free money, what?
right, or what stands for money,
Yeah, which isn't money.
which
And
isn't
so,
what they call money of account, which
it,
is essentially just entering digits in a ledger.
right, which they've been doing forever, by the way.
Enrich themselves at everybody else's expense, because
Yes.
what happens when they enter those digits in a ledger?
Well, they don't do the proper bookkeeping.
Inflation is what happens when they do that, which devalues all the other currency that's already in circulation. So when you go into a grocery store and you see that you're paying $6.79 for a loaf of bread that cost you $2 5 years ago, that's what's happening. You've got criminals actively doing this to you and everyone else.
Yeah, we just have to, continue the discussion and continue the conversation and encourage people to read the Blood Money book, which is fantastic, very eye-opening, but gives you the full history. And it will definitely help people understand that your whole life has been used to promote crime.
Unfortunately. So anyway, guys, it's that magic time of the evening when I'm being called to a dinner meeting. We're having a discussion about the rollout of the bank. We're having a discussion about the situation in the Middle East. And we're having a discussion about Christmas and also a discussion about the latest dog toy entries.
Wonderful.
We've had two really interesting entries in the food category. One is a bratwurst, and you know where that came from, and a basket of strawberry dolls, little ball-like strawberry dolls in a basket. And then we had another unique and very popular entrant, which is called a fat tail dog toy. And I can only describe this as it looks like a sort of a genetic experiment gone horribly wrong, which is a cow body with a squirrel tail attached. And the dogs just love it.
Oh my gosh.
It has this zany little squeaker toy, and it has this big fluffy tail, and they just love it. However, Shannon has come forward with his entry,
Oh, what did he get?
a 3-month-old baby boy.
What?
I know. He just sat the baby down in his bassinet on the floor, and the dogs just went. They were absolutely entranced,
Oh my
riveted.
gosh.
They all sat there just kind of watching the baby for over an hour. Just, we're here, we're watching the baby. Oh, the baby makes little noises and sounds. Isn't the baby cute? So,
Oh my gosh.
not quite the idea of a dog toy that we had in mind, but
You know, it kind of reminds me of those YouTube videos of baby goats. Maybe you guys should make videos of the dogs playing with the various toys and put them up on YouTube so we can all have a good distraction.
yes, well, it's funny. It really is. And the dogs are much happier these days because they always have some entertainment. You know, it's all well and good to get scratches behind the ears and all that, but having some toys to play with has been great for them. And we're duly grateful.
Yeah, lots of toys by now.
Oh yeah, it's a pile, and we're keeping them in excellent condition so that they can just be washed. And at the end of the day, the plan is to let each dog choose their favorite toy out of the pile and then donate the rest to animal shelters.
That'll be fun. That'll be really fun.
I think so. It's a good thing. It's a fun thing.
Absolutely. It's been good for everybody.
And some real tough competitors out there, man. I thought the football from Alabama is just really devastating.
Oh my gosh. Well, that sounds like a fun time, and it sounds like a good topic of discussion for dinner.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody. And, we very much need and very much appreciate your continued support for the effort. We're kind of down to the last days before Christmas. We do have some rather pressing things that have come up. We've had some extremely high phone bills as a result of all the intercontinental correspondence that goes on and the meetings that take place. And so I'm afraid last week was storage, and this week is phone bills, and next week will be something else. But we are still scrambling here. And of course, everything always happens just before Christmas, right? This is the traditional time for everything from veterinary bills to uh, gas utility bills to everything showing up all at once. And we're no exception here. We are having to do some construction work that was unanticipated. We're having to rent some construction equipment in order to fix a separated septic system pipe. So at this point, we're having to thaw it out. Oh yeah, fun and games, right? And so there are several different things that are just problematic in many different respects, but we are keeping our sense of humor, and we are muddling forward and onward and upward, and we won't be stopped. But I just, you know, 2 weeks before Christmas, right?
You're right. Now is the time where whatever's going to go, it's going to go.
Right, exactly. Whatever's going to come loose or
Yeah.
blow apart or, whatever is going to happen is going to happen right now. And it seems to be certainly, I haven't had a chance to make a single batch of cookies yet.
You
So,
got to get on that. We had a holiday bazaar and I bought some homemade spritz cookies. Oh my gosh, I
yum,
love those.
yum. Yes, sugar and butter incarnate.
What's
I know.
not to love?
Yeah, well, and there's hardly anything that goes down better with a warm beverage, as Sheldon would say. Um, we, I like Spitz cookies too.
They're super fun. Yeah, and it just my grandfather used to make them for the holidays. And so it just brought back those memories. That was really, really awesome. And they're not very sweet. There's not a lot of sugar in them. I can't take a lot of sugar, but they've got that buttery, flour, baking soda taste to it.
Yeah, very light
Mm-hmm.
and sandbachels and
Mm-hmm.
all of the Norwegian dainties that
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with also have that buttery, almost ethereal um, quality to them. Krumkaka, you know,
Right, right. Yeah. Oh
butter
gosh.
horns.
I hope, yeah, Matterhorns. I hope you get a chance to make cookies soon. It's coming right up.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen this year, given the, trajectory of international politics and all of the rat watch that we have to endure this time of year. But um, I might get one batch in. That would be good.
One is all it takes.
Jim is voting for chocolate chip.
Oh,
So,
always a good one.
yeah, he likes peanut butter. He likes chocolate chip. He likes the kind of crinkly, sugar coated, creviced molasses cookies.
Oh yeah. Those are awesome.
He likes the spritz. He likes um, the little thumbprint cookies that are rolled in crushed nuts and have a center of jelly. I mean, but I said to him, okay, you only get one. What's it going to be? So we'll
All
do
right.
that at a chance.
Well, sounds like a plan, Anna. Thank you so much for all of the great information you shared tonight. It's tough to hear, but we have to be able to look at these situations for what they are. It's important.
Yeah, well, we can't solve them if we don't know what we're up against. You know, there's no point in batting around a bunch of lies. We might wish that things were different, and I'm sure I do,
Oh
but
yeah.
it is what it is. And we have to play the hand we're dealt. So,
And clean up the mess.
mop and bucket time.
Mop and bucket.
Anyway, dear, I hope everybody has a wonderful week going into the Christmas craziness, and we'll have a little bit of Christmas fun ourselves here coming up this coming week. Um, if anybody wants to join in the grand tradition of Rudolph's Night Off, uh, we are open to that. There are a lot of things that go on this time of year that are kind of uplifting and fun. And so I hope you get out there and enjoy those things that are worth being enjoyed, and that everybody takes a little time, a little extra time to contemplate all the blessings in your life and all the good things that still remain with us and support us and um, make our lives worth living and which make our future bright.
Very nice, Anna. Well, thank you so much, and I hope that you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to seeing you here again next week.
Take care, Terri. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's an honor to serve such a great nation.
Absolutely. We send our love and our gratitude for all your work, Anna. Thank you so much.
You too, Terri. Take care, dear. Good night, everybody.
Good
God
night. God bless. All right, folks, there we have it. Thank you so much for joining us. I send my love and my gratitude to each and every one of you. Have a wonderful week. God bless and good night.